document, Warning Signs of Terrorist Events, and it's a little pocket guide. This is the PDF version. And basically it brings items that I imagine they train law enforcement and fusion centers to be on the lookout and trigger a suspicious activity report being filed. But on one page it has possible signs of terrorist activities. But then it's really disturbing. It goes on to have a section, Warning Signs of Domestic Terrorist Warning Signs. And some of the things they say, if you have a fortified residence, or if you have video surveillance equipment on your property, then you might be a potential domestic terrorist. They go on to say if you make claims regarding government conspiracies, sovereign rights, or common law, which I do all the time. Also, a distribution of radical literature in public places, or claims that law enforcement or the government is illegitimate. Additionally, statements made in public settings that advocate terrorist/extremist views. And it's important to note on that one, there's two versions of this document. One's a PDF format, the other one's a little physical pamphlet. I went to the National Fusion Center conference and went there as a journalist and got some of their material. But it actually used to say statements in the physical documents as statements made in public settings that advocate terrorist/criminal extremist views, but they dropped criminal. Additionally, it said inciting violence concerning claims regarding government conspiracy, sovereign rights, or common law. They dropped the violence out of it. Now it's just if you go on the street corner and espouse a government conspiracy. So is this anything, y'all have come across any training or anything like this?
I've been to the National Fusion Center conference also.
That's not part of our concept of operations. We don't do suspicious activity reporting, and I've never had that training or even seen that document.
Sure.
But you can understand when they drop those words what people are really concerned. Sure. Although it may not be relevant to specifically what you do, more and more people are waking up and they don't like it. That's scary.
Right. So no SARS. I saw there's a link on the website. I don't know if y'all still use that website, the original one that has the architect Bob Johnson, but it has a link to fill out suspicious activity reports. Did y'all abandon that, or?
Yeah, we're not using that or collecting that.
If somebody filled out a suspicious activity report in Collin County, who would they? Is there
the way it would work, since we're not a law enforcement agency, then if they made a suspicious activity report, or from time to time we'll have people call us, and we'll refer them to the jurisdiction where the behavior occurred.
Okay. Are y'all planning to go to suspicious activity reports?
Not in the immediate future.
So where's it go in Plano? Like you said, where's it go in Collin County? That kind of thing.
Well, if something occurred in Plano, then we would refer them to contact Plano PD.
Oh, the
and then where would Plano go? Because the idea is to consolidate all of the suspicious activity reports
right now
into the information
there's not a
sharing
mechanism in place other than Dallas to collect suspicious activity reports.
So if I was like filming a dam or a bridge, or I'm about to go to Lake Louisville tonight, so if I was out there filming the dam and somebody said, hey, there's a strange guy out here filming the dam, and reported it to Louisville Police Department, that information would not be pushed up to you guys?
Not to us, no.
Okay.
Do y'all put any information into the information sharing environment?
Absolutely, about 110 million records.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're all records that you can go to the police department and do open records requests and get every one of them.
But they originate from the local police,
right.
And they just go to y'all and y'all put it into IS.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in that sense, if the local PD had a suspicious activity report created and then gave it to you guys, it would enter your database then?
No.
Yes?
No.
Not a suspicious activity
No.
report. We won't.
We're taking
So
offense.
it's not considered a criminal nature then? They haven't reached the criminal point? Is that right?
No. If somebody if you called and said, you had, like you said, you went to the lake, and if they call Louisville and then Louisville gives it to us, we're not going to do anything with it because we're not set up that way. We don't have policies or any kind of procedures. We'd just be like, the most I'd say is, well, thanks for the situational awareness, and that's about it. It won't go now. If somebody reports it to us and it's concerning Louisville, we'll pick up the phone and call Louisville and let them know, hey, you had
or refer them,
citizen.
like I was saying, refer them to Louisville. That gets us out of the middle of it, that they can follow up on it. Any other questions about the?
I had a question. Back on when you mentioned the advisory board, would that be the same as the intelligence oversight board?
Yes.
The one that
it
you
is.
were talking about.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I had a question too about the executive board. That's going to be different from the.
No, it's one of the same. What we're going to have is the commissioners court is oversight, and then under that we'll have an executive advisory board. that'll approve our policies and procedures pending approval of the court. Then to the side of that, we'll have a policy and privacy group to review our policies and concept of operations is our strategy.
And the list of the executive board, is this still the same list? This is for March 18 this year?
No, we've reduced that back, more focused just on officers or chiefs in Collin County.
Okay.
Our core advisory board is going to be made up of mainly Collin County people.
Is the privacy policy going to be approved by the county commissioners court in the sense that it will be a legislatively backed document, or will it remain an internal administrative document that could be changed by the executive working group?
Well, we just got it back last week, or sent it back for a final review.
Or y'all working with IIR and
yeah. How many reviews? 4?
Institute for Intergovernmental Research.
They changed the template the last time. Everything was fine, so you know, it's kind of like smoke and mirrors. You know, what do we? Now you see me, now you don't, kind of deal. And so after we get it back, we'll send it to the court for final approval, and then the board, the executive board, that'll be one of the first things that they'll do in September. Will be to approve that privacy policy.
If you wanted to change it, would you have to go back to get it voted upon, or would the executive working group be able to alter it? That's something. It's something we came across in Austin halfway through the debate. They're they're telling us focus on the privacy policy. It's going to have your safeguards, and then we find out it's a living document, and it could be changed at the whim of the executive board the whole time. So we managed to get some of the protections that were in the privacy policy placed into the interlocal agreement, which now is in legislative permanence, not just subject to the whims of the law enforcement.
Yeah, I would say that any changes that we would make or recommendations would go back to our oversight, which is Commissioner's Court, for final approval.
Might I make a recommendation for the privacy policy? One of the big things that eased a lot of the concerns down in Austin was, 28 CFR Part 23 provides protections for criminal intelligence. And they make you feel warm and fuzzy inside because of 28 CFR Part 23, when in reality that doesn't apply at all to suspicious activity reports, which are non-criminal in nature. So in order to ease a lot of the concerns of the people in this area, if you were to apply 28 CFR Part 23, which prevents them from collecting criminal intelligence on stuff just of a political, social, or religious nature, if you apply that to non-criminal information, then you would not legally be able to collect information when somebody's espousing extremist views or government conspiracy.
I'm not sure.
The National SAR initiative is going to have its own set of rules. And they're going to require their own privacy policy on top of the one that you have here. So, and that's transparent as well, the steps and the procedures that, and if you go, I don't know if you've met with Dallas PD, have you met with them or anything? Well, when you go see them, they'll tell you they get suspicious activity reports all the time, and I think out of the gazillion that they've only had one that ever qualified to meet all the requirements that are set up by the National SAR Initiative before it even got sent up to the FBI and everything. So you can ask them about that. Again, we're not at that level yet. I think there's only 13 fusion centers out of the 72 that are actually at that level right now.
Out of the
out of the 72 fusion centers in the United States, there's only 12, and I think now 13 that have been approved at that level where they met all the requirements to start that program. But I understand what you're saying, and we'll definitely look
sure, because they want the LAPD's SARS guidelines to be the national standard, and they have collect one when somebody espouses extremist views, and we already determined the definition in the eyes of the DHS of what extremism is. It's everybody in this room. So if I'm out there saying, long live the Constitution, nullify unconstitutional laws, then they could fill out a suspicious activity report unless those safeguards are in place. So it's just something to think about it.
Yeah,
and again,
that's a good idea.
When the Fusion Center in the future, if we ever reach that level of the SARS, you're welcome to request to see the requirements that are required.
We'll make them available to y'all.
Cool.
Yeah.
So there's none in Texas that reach that level. You all don't?
Houston does, I think.
I miss that.
No, I don't even think, I'll have to check to see if Houston is.
Such a big state.
I think they're part of the pilot program.
Right.
Houston and Dallas are the ones right now with the pilot program.
There are two biggest cities.
Yeah. I'm sorry, you've had a question for a while.
Yes, and maybe it was answered and I missed it and went over my head. So you're telling me if somebody from Washington said Barbara Harless is doing, activity that we suspect, so we want, all of your files on her, what would prevent you from giving that to them? They give you a lot of your funding.
Our policy
You
would
could say
prevent.
no.
Yes.
We're not
Our
overriding.
policy, if that's all they said to us,
They don't have access to it in this IT technology that we have. They couldn't just punch a button and access what you've got here?
no,
No,
not in
I mean,
Washington.
they would be doing illegal activity at that point. They'd have to actually hack
Well,
into
What's
it.
new?
I'm not saying that they couldn't or if they wanted to do that. I mean, we have safeguards in place
Yeah.
for that, but
You do what you can to keep them
Yes, ma'am.
from getting into it, but that doesn't mean that they can't.
Right.
ultimately,
Okay.
yes, ma'am, I guess.
Yeah.
Same
If
way
other-
that if they lie,
teenagers can hack it,
they
yeah,
lie.
they can hack
Right,
it.
right.
Okay.
Do y'all have
Alright.
MOUs with the federal government?
We have MOUs with state and local, but not any memorandums of understanding at the federal.
Is there any official agreement between, or just existing federal law would be it, I guess?
Yeah, the existing federal laws that would require them to act appropriately and follow those laws. Yeah.
I gotta run. I've got another meeting. Barbara, thank you for the
Thank
invitation.
you,
It's very
Cheryl.
nice to meet you all. I'm looking
Let me
back
know when you
together.
want to come back, because
Okay.
you're missing the most
I
important
know,
part.
I know.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions before we move on? I think next slide this just talks about our partners across the region, people that we work with, Homeland Security, law enforcement, and that includes Sheriff's Office, police officers, criminal investigators, public health, epidemiologists, Fire Marshal's Office, emergency management. The Texas Fusion Center is the state center that we primarily work with. And then when we have things occur from time to time, like a few months ago, or maybe a year ago, there was a tanker truck that blew up on 35, shut down 35. They saw it on the news and they were calling us, hey, is there any terrorism nexus? And so from a local perspective, we can say, no, it's just an accident. Tanker truck blew up, and give them some insight into what's going on in the region. We were doing some things with the private sector. I'm sure you're all familiar with FBI InfraGard. We're really not doing that much with them now. We get the same reports that they do about threats to the financial district, to other industry as well.
Water treatment plants,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah. So I think now we're going to talk about the Medical Reserve Corps, and I want all of y'all to sign up before you leave. This is Maria.
Well, nice to have the opportunity to talk to you today. I think I have the best job in this whole entire place because I have the most fun. I get to recruit and train people in our community that want to help in the event of an emergency or disaster. That's it. They just want to help their neighbor. We don't ever want to see a Katrina-like incident ever again. And so my background's actually in nursing. I have a bachelor's degree from Rush University in Chicago, and I worked as a labor and delivery nurse, perinatal educator for years here in the community. We've been residents of Collin County for almost 18 years, so for me it's very personal. This is where my family and friends are. So we have now up to almost 1,300 volunteers, 1,279 to be exact. A year and a half ago we had 487. One of our primary goals would be, as Kelly had mentioned earlier, to help distribute this strategic national stockpile if there was a bioterrorist event, or it could be a hurricane like Katrina, or some catastrophic event like a tornado cutting a swath through Collin County, where medical supplies or things were needed. We would open up point of dispensing sites throughout the county, and we pre-designated our primary sites are the major high schools throughout the area. And we would have these volunteers that live within Collin County go and help staff these high schools to be able to distribute those supplies or prophylaxis if it was needed in the form of antibiotics. We're funded, and I work under the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Act or grant, which is from the Central the Centers for